Rightio, welcome along everyone to my live stream today. Today's just going to be a bit of a casual yap, and what I want to talk about is something which I've noticed over the course of this year as someone who was a non-developer who's worked with a lot of developers, and it has some technical background, but again, not a developer. The agentic coding tools have just gotten so much better over the course of this year. I kind of want to talk about why that might be and what it might mean for the future of work, because there's so much focus at the moment on software engineering being over. I've seen tweets like this: software engineering is over. Some dude who's an Anthropic engineer saying, we might have solved software engineering. That's probably a bit far-fetched. Software engineering still has a lot of things where that human expertise and judgment and taste are required. But will there need to be as many software engineers today compared to 5 years ago, compared to 5 months ago? I mean, if you look at how the benchmarks are progressing, things which experts thought would be hard for AI agents to do, some of these benchmarks are now 100% solved. So human experts have to go off and design more complex benchmarks for these models to be benchmarked against in terms of capability. That's something worth double clicking on. If you are in a position where you have something where you believe you need to test the capability of these models and hold them to account and say, oh, look, they're not there yet. They can't do this. I've got these really complex tests or benchmarks which they need to be able to achieve unless, if we want to say that they're getting closer and closer to where they need to be in terms of capability. Now, what does that actually mean if more and more of these benchmarks are getting saturated? Well, it means that the way that we've traditionally thought about assessing AI capability is running into the capability of human experts to design more and more complex assessments, which they call benchmarks, to have some sort of statistical way where they can put it in their marketing of, we're 98% on this benchmark or whatever, and really use that to say the relative differences between models. Now, part of this is marketing, part of it's science, part of it's engineering. But one thing I'm quite conscious of is we cannot rely on the AI labs and how they want to market the capabilities of their tools to us. We have to do our own testing. So again, like what I've noticed over the course of this year is when you chat back and forth with Claude Code, especially with the latest Opus 4.5 model, or you chat back and forth with ChatGPT Codex, the tuned coding-centric models that they've put into Codex, what I've noticed is that the planning and engineering type work that they've put in, to me, as a non-developer who's had to work with a lot of developers on projects, it feels more like I'm talking to a mid-career developer than a junior. Some of the things that I get back from agentic coding models feel like I'm talking to someone who's much more senior, almost architect level. Other times, they make some mistakes which are so shocking, you feel like you're talking to an intern or a junior. And this distribution, this randomness, is just part of how the whole LLM AI thing's working. But it's not just software engineering. The way I'm starting to think about the impact of agentic coding tools getting better is about the wider world of work. One thing that you've seen is Claude and OpenAI and Google are all trying to get into the office workspace game. They kind of want to disrupt Microsoft as much as they possibly can. They would rather that all your work is done inside ChatGPT, inside Claude, inside Gemini. This integration, this bundling, is one of the most powerful ways for them to lock in enterprise and business customers and really push the limits of what these tools can do when they have access to all your business context. Because that's the other thing that's happened this year. If you cast your mind back, the context window size has been increasing. So you can get more context in a coding session. Compaction, where when you start to hit up against the limit or close to it, the tool compacts, so you get a little bit saved context and you get more space freed up so you can continue instead of having to start a new chat. All of these little features are incremental steps on a journey where these improvements in the agentic harnesses are not just going to impact software engineering. Again, software engineering might be solved, but there are so many other domains where text and written things and things that can be proven, either the test passes or the test fails, the equation solves or it doesn't, that all knowledge work is ultimately in scope for the application of these. And at the moment, one of the change management sort of challenges I see talking to people about their AI transformation challenges is a lot of things are still stuck in email, Word documents, spreadsheets, PDFs, sitting in OneDrive or network drives. This way of working is going to get disrupted because of the power of these tools. There's been some Substack posts where I've written a little bit about this. I'll put a link in the video below the video to my Substack. But there's this issue where a lot of people who want to use AI in their business don't want to change how they work. They mightn't be able to. They might be able to convince their team members to. This means that how work is done today with emails and work, phone calls and all these inefficient, high friction ways of working, there's a competitive risk because let's take, for example, a law firm that operates entirely in Microsoft Office Suite and some key tools it connects to. The real opportunity for an agentic tool in the legal world is moving that document revision cycle out of Word and tracked changes to Markdown files and Git version control and pull requests. Working like a software developer, working like a software engineer. That mental shift is probably beyond a lot of lawyers. Lawyers aren't technical generally. They're very, very clever and very hardworking, but they're not going to navigate the command line interface in Claude Code. And this is something which, as someone who's very optimistic about the technology, that next level of user interface is going to need to be beautiful and engaging to help people who would be able to better solve their day-to-day problems with the help of these AI agentic coding harnesses, but they currently can't because there's this intermediate step. And Codex in the browser and Claude Code in the browser or on the desktop app are steps in this direction. But my sort of thinking based on my experience in corporate and change management and understanding how people respond to change is that is almost too jarring, because to my mind, it doesn't seem that complicated. If I ask a junior to review something and come back with an updated marked up document, how is that different to asking Codex or Claude Code to do the same thing? If they have the capability, access to the right data, the right safety and privacy and cybersecurity controls and segregation between who can see what and all these sorts of things that an enterprise IT team needs to think about when they're rolling out these tools, that might be fine. But a lot of people don't think that way. And this is where this change management challenge, and one of the things I'm helping people with and writing about and why I really want to do this content is The technology is already there for a lot of people. Because those benchmarks we were talking about earlier? They're like math Olympiad competition level. It's post graduate mathematics. This is tough stuff. AI models can do that. What it means is, are the problems of your business more complicated than postgraduate mathematic problems? Probably not. Most businesses have standard operating procedures. They have checklists. They have rules, frameworks, policies, all these things they need to comply with. This is all context. An AI agent can consume and act on context. An AI agent or an AI model can actually be fine-tuned even off all of the specific context that your business has if you wanted to go down that path. Personally, I think that that's probably not the way to go. And maybe I'll just explain that. So you could fine-tune a model, so take an open source model and fine-tune it so that the open source model is the base, but then you put additional effort into tweaking it for your specific industry or your specific business. This is a lot of effort. And one thing I've noticed from talking to people over the last few years about how they think about AI and how they want to roll it out in big corporate environments is a lot of the places that invested a lot in customizing and fine-tuning models, they find out that after they have done that and spent millions or tens of millions in some cases doing that, in 6 months' time, a new model gets released and it's got such a higher level of capability that the value to that fine-tuning is no longer there. Yet there's a sunk cost fallacy, right? You spent all this money, this time, this effort, the new model's better. But it'd be a loss of face and embarrassing for people to say, oh no, we wasted millions of dollars fine-tuning a model and Claude Opus 4.5 came out and we could just do it without any fine-tuning and get a better, higher quality outcome. That's a position that a lot of leaders will find themselves in, where this desire for risk management and safety is a trade-off. There are some things that you're going to be able to do yourself. That's aligned to your domain speciality, the stuff that's not in AI training model data, the stuff that's not on the public internet, your IP, your proprietary secrets about how you do business, your insights about customers and their problems, your insights about regulators and their expectations, your insights about wider community concerns about your business and what might be acceptable. Because not all AI uses will be acceptable to the community. Already people are living in fear of what AI means for them as a person. Most people don't own a business or own lots of investments. They rely on a job paying them a wage or salary every month. And if they think that anything AI related means they get less money, that fear response is going to lead to a lot of things like an impulse for over-regulation, an impulse for trying to control how companies roll out AI. And there could be a good argument made there. I'm not going to talk about that, but there are trade-offs to that, because as these tools are getting better and better, the world's going to become more and more competitive, and not everyone in every business is going to have that skill set to remain valuable, because we're going to have to partner with these tools, whether we want to or not. We don't really have a choice. And that might sound fatalistic, but hear me out. The reason why I think we won't have a choice is because of incentives. Everyone faces incentives and responds to incentives. The leaders in your business respond to incentives. The shareholders in your business respond to incentives. The regulators who answer to the public and the politicians respond to incentives. If they see something getting out of control, they will slam down the regulatory handbrake. You can look to Europe to see what regulating too soon can do to an industry. They are behind. Their leading model is worse than DeepSeek, and DeepSeek is actually a pretty good model for an open source model, like I think underestimating the power of open source models, especially the Chinese ones, is one of the biggest mistakes people are making. I've tried out some of the Chinese models in my agentic coding side projects, and they're about Sonnet 4.5 level. They're not Opus 4.5. They're not ChatGPT, 5.1 Codex Ultra Pro High Max. Like, they're not there yet, but they're good, and they're getting better, and they're much, much, much cheaper. And this is the other part of the equation. And what does it mean? Agentic coding tools getting better. Like, what it means is they're getting better, but at the same time, there's more competitors. There's more tools where you can pick whatever model via API you want. There's bundled options like OpenCode and Cursor, and it was Windsurf, but now Google have anti-gravity. They haven't put the pricing in there, but they've plugged it into their Pro plan. It's interesting to see how that will work, but all of these all-you-can-eat type subscriptions, like the Claude one, like the ChatGPT Pro one, they give away a lot of token usage, but that's not where the real cost savings will be. The cost savings will be is if you're a business owner and you have a problem, and let's say you need to manage some custom integration between system A and system B, and you pay $100,000 a year for someone to do that task. If you can get an AI tool to build a way of automating that, what's it worth to you to pay in AI credits? Even if you're vibe coding and it's failing and you have to waste lots of time in supporting it, a lot of people, because they don't think about total cost of ownership, will just vibe code something that works. That might not be the right outcome in year 2 when the person who vibe coded it left, or year 3 when you're getting acquired and someone's like, what's this little integration tool here? Oh yeah, I just made it in Claude Code 2 years ago. That's not really going to fly with a lot of acquirers. If you've got all these vibe coded apps in your stack and the documentation's not there, the testing's not there. But that's where we sort of move to another topic of, what actually is vibe coding quality? And my take, based on my experience in project delivery, is you actually need to do a similar or even greater level of documentation that you would in a regulated entity when you're doing software development or IT development. Because that way you're getting written context into the model, and it's assessing that against the code, assessing that against the test criteria that you want it to pass. And that is probably a topic for another video, but what I think, if there's one thing you take away from this, it's these tools are getting better, they're getting cheaper. It's not just software engineering that's at risk. It's any text or image, and now even video-based task that you can break down into a clear process, document it, test it, leverage these tools to get an outcome cheaper, better, and faster. So I write about this on my Substack. I publish that once a week. I'm quite active now in the videos. I'm publishing shorts on here. Like and subscribe, follow along, subscribe to my newsletter. And if you're interested in talking to me further about how you might unblock an AI transformation in your business, I work one-on-one with select clients. There'll be a link in the description below to that Calendly booking, so you can book a call in there. Anything else that you have, I'd love to hear from you. I'm pretty open on social media, so feel free to DM me on other platforms. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.